Yes, very topical talking about a program that ended half a year ago. No, not clickbait. I did have some qualms with the series everyone else loved. But first, some positives. Quite often, my problem with shows and movies will boil down to character motivation, or lack thereof. A character is written one way, but acts in a way contrary to how they're written because that's how the writer wants the story to go. I don't get that here. All the principal characters have clearly defined motivations and act according to those motivations. That might seem like it should be obvious, and it should, but it's still a big problem with a lot of the things I see, so I'm happy to report that's not the case here. Also, vague spoilers, I guess, but this isn't a show afraid to be about an actual bad guy. After the spume and the crap I've watched with Scarlet Witch and the MCU, I'm kind of tired of these stories of, well, it's a bad guy, but not too bad, we still want people to like him. That's not the case here. This show pulls no punches, and it is in no way a misunderstood anti-hero. No, full-on villain, and again, that should be obvious with the character and where he comes from, but no, this seems like the exception to the rule, which I was happy didn't follow suit with other villain protagonists we have seen in fiction lately. The show is 8 episodes exclusive, at least for now, on HBO Max about the rise of Ozcobb, from low-level enforcer to a big kahuna in the Gotham underworld. Simple enough, I can't remember which writer said this, but there's this quote, "Your job as a writer is to find out what your protagonist's goal is and do everything you can to prevent them from achieving it." The Odyssey. Odysseus wants to get home after the war, but it would be pretty boring if you had him succeed in a couple of pages. Homer keeps throwing obstacles in his way. What does this have to do with the Penguin? At the start of the series, Penguin shoots his ex-boss's son for disrespecting him. Now he's in it deep because his ex-boss's daughter suspects he did this, so he has to keep the heat off himself while also trying to achieve his objective of becoming a mob boss in his own right. By the end of the episode, he's framed the rival gang, the Maronis, for the murder he committed, while he's also making them think he's on their side. Excellent. So we'll see Penguin's ingenuity as he plays both sides, while avoiding suspicion from both sides, and eventually rises to the top as he watches his enemies kill each other. Well, no, that's the plot for the first 3 episodes. Then the Maronis find out Oz is working with Sophia Falcone, and the game is seemingly up. Then we get a full episode flashbacking how Sophia got to where she is now, and it's a great episode. I really felt for Sophia, and it cements her motivation. But it's about here that the series loses me a little. Since we've abandoned the gang war with Oz playing both sides, we have to come up with something else. Episode 5 has Oz betray the Maronis, and the Maronis betray Oz, and he gets away with 2 buckets of mushrooms. They were the source of the drug he and Sophia were going to sell. He's upset. Only 2 buckets? Wah, wah. But then we get a time jump between episode 5 and 6. Not years or anything like that, but long enough for Oz to have a significant drug empire from these 2 buckets. Okay, what was the point of him only rescuing the 2 buckets from this batch of shrooms? You could have just had all these buckets be good and cut the time jump. Oz immediately is able to begin production on what he and Sophia had planned from what he stole from the Maronis. Not that it matters because the very next episode, Sophia blows it all up. After Oz playing both sides is known to the Maronis and Sophia, we spend some time watching Sophia in her attempts to claim her birthright. She kills most of her family because they were complicit in her unjustly being committed to Arkham. Then, after Oz kills Mrs. Maroni and son, she teams up with Mr. Maroni, who escaped from Blackgate. Not that it matters, as he has a heart attack in the very next episode. You could have just had Oz's corrupt guard succeed in killing him for all that he accomplishes after he escapes. By the end of the series, Sophia wants out because of the pain she's caused her cousin, who she spared when she killed the rest of the family. So she tells all the gangsters of Gotham she'll hand her empire over to whoever captures Oz for her. But Oz convinces other gangsters to betray those gangsters, and then he sends Sophia back to Arkham. Any other city, I would question how easy it is to send someone to the asylum, but Gotham is built off corruption, so fine, whatever. The series ends with Oz, now a big-time gangster, but it doesn't feel earned to me. There's this thing in improv that has carried over into writing fiction, specifically if you don't like to outline and plan ahead. Yes, but, and no and. Did Jack Napier survive the fall? Yes, but he's now deformed and driven mad. Did Dumbledore survive his encounter with the Death Eaters on the Astronomy Tower? No, and the Horcrux he died for is a fake. This can be helpful if you're facing writer's block. I don't know what obstacles to throw in my character's way. This will always force your story to move forward or backward, but it will always be moving if you do this. But the downside of this method is it feels disjointed, at least when it feels like this was the primary method of scripting for this series. We had what I thought was an interesting premise for less than half the series. Then we waste it, and now we suffer through a series of false starts on Oz's rise to power. When he's actually succeeded, I have no reason to suspect it will last more than 10 minutes, and not because it's implied Batman's coming for him.
Where were you when Sophia blew up an entire road, Bruce?
I'm skeptical of Oz's success because if the rest of the series is any indication, these guys Oz convinced to kill their bosses will just turn on him. Or this guy will send Oz anthrax in the mail. Or Victor's girlfriend will blow up his penthouse. The problem with the yes but no and method is, what's to say this is the end of the character's journey? Have all the obstacles been taken care of by the character? If it's felt like a never-ending barrage of no ends and then the writer suddenly decides, okay, now the character suddenly succeeds with no ends to get in the way, that's potentially going to feel very dissatisfying to the audience. Not in this case, since everybody else universally loved this show. But for me, this didn't feel like the slow climb to power I kind of felt like we were promised. 10 minutes before Oz has finally won, I didn't feel like he was any closer to achieving his goals than he was 4 episodes earlier. If the show had stuck with the gang war, with Oz manipulating everybody against each other, sure, that might have felt repetitive to some viewers, but no more so than a show repeatedly pulling the rug out from Oz only for him to escape and do the same again in the next episode. But if they had gone with a very basic straight line of Oz starts off as a nobody in the eyes of the Falcones and the Maronis, but as he tricks his way through this gang war, he gets promoted, he cuts some throats to move ahead, frames enemies for his actions, again, some might have felt that that would have been predictable. But at least I would feel a sense of accomplishment when Oz finally reaches the top. I didn't hate the show, but I didn't love it like everyone else. I was genuinely surprised I didn't see more people latching onto these problems I had with it. It's still one of the better superhero-adjacent shows I've seen in a long while, though that's a low bar to clear. That's all I have today. I hope you guys like this one, and if you did, I'll be back with something else in the future. Until then, have a good one.